Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and much to Trump's annoyance, his mate Jair Bolsonaro has been convicted of insurrection in Brazil and looks set for probably the rest of his life in prison. Now, this may sound like terrible news for Bolsonaro, but actually it's not a disaster for him. There's a chance he'll just remain under house arrest, and he has a very posh house. And within a few years, his faction could regain power, adopt a Project 2025 permanent takeover of Brazil, impeach the Supreme Court justices who convicted him, and turn Brazil into the sort of fascist dictatorship that the USA is currently morphing into. So in reality, Bolsonaro may only need to stay at home for a couple of years, living in luxury, albeit with reduced range, and then could be back on top. A bit of patience, this could just be a minor setback. Only there's a small obstacle for Bolsonaro's allies here. Donald Trump. The man they asked to help them may well have completely screwed them with his stupidity and clumsiness. This is a story of rich schadenfreude. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So let's go through this from the beginning, because it's a proper case of stupid evil. July 2025, peak summer heat, and Donald Trump is convinced he's got Brazil checkmate. He slaps 50% tariffs on Brazilian beef and coffee and cacao, effective at sunrise, and the message here is simple: play ball or get burned. Tariffs solve everything, don't you know? 3 weeks later, scoreboard flips. Lula's poll line climbs 10 points overnight. You got crowds in Sao Paulo belting out his name. The tariff that was meant to humiliate him turns into jet fuel for a nationalist boom no forecaster had on their bingo card. So we go back a little bit further, mid-2025. Lula is stuck at 38% approval. Supermarket prices are stinging. We know what happens there. Congress is deadlocked. Corruption whispers still echo in the news cycle. Things are not looking good for President Lula. Bolsonaro just needs to be patient. But across the equator, Trump, fresh second term, unveils America First 2.0. Brazil, it's not that big a deal for US imports. Looks like a safe punching bag. Small volume, zero electoral pain. The wish list here is 2 grabs. Trump's got 2 grabs. Brazil's Supreme Court cracking down on US tech platforms. Remember how they brought Musk's Twitter to heel? And its courts were keeping Bolsonaro on the legal hot seat. How dare they threaten to punish him for insurrection? Insurrection, it's just larks really, isn't it? Washington's bet was you squeeze the commodity belt and Brasilia will fold, right? August the 1st, lights on. Section 301 investigation plus tariffs leap from 10% to 50% on Brazilian staples. Orange juice and jets wriggle free from after the lobbyists swarm the hill. But beef, coffee, cacao, they stay in the crosshairs, right? Brazilian exporters wake up to phone calls saying, oh, sorry, we're going to have to cancel that contract. It's a bit too pricey. Trump aides are high-fiving on cable news, going, that's how you do it, that's called leverage, that is. But they miss 3 realities. 1, mess with coffee and beef and you're messing with the flag. 2, Lula's been singing the anti-imperial song for decades. Outside pressure, reportedly his favourite stage, right? And 3, Latin America remembers Trump's earlier tariff tantrums and they weren't in surrendering mood then either. Washington read the spreadsheet, right? They go, this will hurt them, right? This will hurt them. But they skipped the sociology lessons. Within hours, Lula's on every screen, sleeves rolled, right? No policy wonk script, right? It's just straight nationalist fire. They want to bankrupt our farmers because we stand up for democracy. He blocks incoming US beef at customs. He files a WTO case and he rolls out a nearly $6 billion credit shield for exporters. Headline, suddenly, he's not the embattled president. He's the guy defending your breakfast cafes, your businesses. Memes of Lula in a coffee field cowboy hat flooding TikTok and other social media platforms. 2 weeks later, the polling drops. Approval rating went from 36% to 46%. Disapproval was down 7. In the Northeast, he was getting to 60%. Among voters earning under 2 minimum wages, the jump is even wilder. Like a tariff that was meant to choke the economy and punish Brazilians, putting pressure on the government and the Supreme Court, actually handed Lula the one thing stimulus checks couldn't buy, a countrywide cause. Trump presented the external threat which got the population to rally around the government. But the plot keeps moving. Brazil's currency slips 4%. Oh, that sounds bad, doesn't it? But that made its coffee cheaper in Tokyo and Shanghai. Exporters rerouted containers east. By September, monthly bean exports are up 3% year on year. Despite the US war, their exports actually increased. Markets notice Lula's team looks calm. Washington looks stuck replaying gunboat diplomacy. Even Sao Paulo's boardroom crowd, not exactly Lula fan club material, are they? They were applauding the credit lifeline. Opposition lawmakers who spent July grilling him over inflation suddenly got a line up behind retaliatory bills, right? Trump's squeeze delivered the textbook rally round the flag gift at the exact moment Lula's presidency needed oxygen. Before Trump got involved, Bolsonaro wasn't really in that much trouble. Yes, he was going to be convicted for insurrection, but not only did that happen anyway, is it that big a deal? He's old. There isn't the security to put him in one of Brazil's overcrowded prisons. He ain't going to be doing porridge. He's going to, at worst, be put in a specially made cell and might just end up staying under house arrest. Lula was struggling in the polls. At the next election, Bolsonaro's faction may have taken over again and reversed everything. What was there to panic about? But panic they did, and they asked Trump for help. Oh dear. The tariffs actually torpedoed Bolsonaro because he was publicly cheering the pain. Come on, bring it on, Trump boy, bring it on, betting that it would force Lula to beg. Instead, even moderate conservatives saw him rooting for foreign punishment of Brazilian farmers. Bolsonaro's favourables dip under 30% for the first time since 2021. His 2026 comeback plan cracks a little bit. Meanwhile, Brasilia drifts closer to Beijing. China widens meat import quotas. Huawei inks a 5G expansion, exactly the tech spread Trump wanted to curb. Back in DC, you've got senators whispering about rolling the tariffs back, but the White House doesn't want the headlines of Trump chickens out, right? So the mistake hardens into a monument. Not only has Trump not done anything to help his fellow insurrectionist, he's actually empowered China and made America look weak at the same time. The USA tried to use economic strong-arm tactics, but it failed. Not for the first time. Stupid evil strikes again. So what are the lessons here? First, economic weapons, tidy on paper, can explode politically in ways those who aren't good at holistic analysis may not initially realise. Second, in commodity countries, coffee, beef, they're not just crops, they're identity. You kick them, you kick the flagpole. And third, timing is everything. You had a weak leader and an outside bully that was instant surge. Trump set out to discipline Lula. He ended up handing him a flag to wear like a cape and a chant that still echoes. I wonder if the US government will reflect on these lessons. Not with Trump in charge, I suspect. So Bolsonaro, was he really in that much of a bad situation before, may actually have to spend the rest of his life incarcerated now. I mean, it's still not hopeless for him. Brazil is very divided, much like the USA. But his task has now been made much more difficult because of his impatience and the stupidity of his would-be saviour. But let me know what you think in the comments below. For more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind-the-scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.